Good day, my name is Christel from Frans the Klerk Independent Technical Analysts. Thank you for all your emails and requests on Twitter, and we have got such a beautiful bunch of local as well as international shares and currency pairs that we can discuss today. The first one we want to have to look at is the British Pound Rand currency pair that Murray wanted us to look at. And we can clearly see, Murray, that since that from when that 40-week moving average represented by that red line changed into support, the weakness in the Rand against the British Pound is in place. Now the big question is, to where can it go? Unfortunately, with these long candles, the first sign of strength will only be below 21 Rand 95 and then again below 20 Rand 45. So to answer your question of where can it go, you can use these strong levels and try to find at least 3 touching points on your trend lines to identify possible resistance levels that the Rand against the British Pound can go. But interesting enough, if I take this current high there of 22 Rand and 49 and I take it back to the low of where the pound was around the week of the 29th of July 2009, I can see my Fibonacci level takes it back to around 25 Rand 80, and that's the same high we had around the week of 11th of Jan 2016. So what you can do is, and it's again at that 122% level at this stage, and it tested it and retraced from it. You can see it did not change it into a support yet. And remember, this is a weekly graph, so in theory, as per the textbooks, we should wait for a Friday close before we make a decision on this pair. But at this stage, that level around 22 Rand 48 is still a resistance. And only above that level can we assume that levels around 22.88, 23.25, 23.96, and then obviously that higher 25.80 can be tested again. So if there is a lack of support or resistance levels, Murray, you can use Fibonacci levels to try to identify where the strong support and resistance levels are on a currency pair or any listed instrument. John wanted us to look at Bitcoin, and with every downside has got its opportunity, and with the markets and the movement in the markets, beginners are again becoming aware of trading opportunities in financial instruments. And John, you can clearly see that there is a descending channel in the making and on Bitcoin. And remember, this is a weekly graph. So what we can see, there was definitely 2 consecutive weeks from the 9th of March as well as on the 16th of March, there was support. Now the big test is, will the support around $5,205 remain? If that support level remains, we can see Bitcoin maybe testing these strong resistance levels at around 8,496 again. And take note how closely those levels are to the 40-week moving average, waiting at 8,746. So my confirmation of optimism will only be above this strong resistance level, waiting at 7,105. So what you can do is, if you want a textbook trade, you can wait for it buy above 7,105. Use the low here at around 5,205 as a stop loss, or even the tail. Remember, then your position size should become smaller as your stop loss increase. And then maybe see if you can take the 40-week moving average, and then the big test will become at that upper line. So this descending channel can confirm a possible bullish flag formation if this upper band changes into a support. Now, a bullish flag is basically a continuation pattern and confirmation of optimism. So we can see that the overall trend is upwards, and then the formation pulls back against the trend, and once this upper band changes into a support, and assuming that it will, it means that the overall momentum to the top can continue again. And obviously you can use your candles or a line graph, you can use the closing prices and moving average to identify where the resistance or the support will be. But at this stage, Bitcoin, with the strong possible higher lows here on these candles, it looks like it's supporting these levels around 5,200 and a possible opportunity for higher levels. The reason why I'm not using indicators, because all the financial instruments are basically oversold at the moment. They are rock bottom on any indicator that you might look at. So we are drawn to look at the price action in the candles to see what the informed capital think with the big money on whether the sentiment towards the share is positive or negative. Jessica wanted us to look at Amazon. And Jessica, is also one of my favorite shares to trade because of the volatility. And we can clearly see we are sitting here with an ascending triangle. Now, an ascending triangle becomes a negative formation when this lower band on the triangle becomes a resistance. And take note, Jessica, how closely that is weighting to that red line, the 40-week moving average. Below a 40-week moving average, the long-term sentiment towards the instrument becomes negative again, and above it, it remains positive. So we can see even in this week's candle, and yes, it's not finished yet, that the sellers are keen to take this stock to lower levels. Very important, this strong resistance line there at the top waiting at $2,021 has remained a resistance. And even in the bounces of the last 3 weeks, and I'm going to zoom it out for you, they could not go back to 2025 level, and that is seen as negative. A big concern as well here is the fact that I have a massive gap there, and that gap is waiting between 2088 and 2039, and we can assume that the momentum to the bottom will continue as long as that breakaway gap remains open. And I think, Jessica, the first bell rang with that beautiful tweezer top that could not be ignored. Tweezer tops, triple tops, head and shoulder formations, those are all warning formations to tell you, take note, it's time to consider banking profit. The sellers might come in fiercely. And they did. They tried to protect the ascending triangle. And now the big test is, can they go back to 2025? Can they test it? If they can't, I think this might be a nice short opportunity that you can either on the 40-week moving average, or you can preempt it at current levels. If you want to wait for confirmation, wait for this bottom line of the ascending triangle to change into a resistance, and that is waiting at $1,875. You can use this upper band as 2025 as your stop loss should you want to, but beware that you might have a false break. They might just go and close that gap, and then you don't want to be wiped out, and then it declines again. So you can even maybe use those upper bands on those resistance levels as a stop loss, depending on how big you want to trade it. But this graph is telling me more downside and a possible short, as you've mentioned in your email, Jessica. Clive wanted us to look at Naspers. And we've mentioned before that this possible megaphone formation can change into a jaws of death. And at the moment with the massive candles, it's so difficult to trade the instruments because your stop loss levels are just so big. But what is a concern is these two longer upper shadows on my Naspers candle on a weekly graph that implies that the sellers are taking profit. They don't want to really protect the share to higher levels, and they might just want to take even more profit. So if this upper band at the top, and that is waiting there around 2,732.28, if that level does not change into a support, we can maybe see even lower levels. So they have to change that level into a support in order for this negativity to be wiped off the table. And again, we're sitting here with a window, almost exactly the same as with the Amazon graph. And that window is waiting between 2,636 Rand 31 and the top of that window is waiting at 2,625 Rand and 6 cents. So if that window does not get closed, we can assume that the momentum to the bottom will continue. The big test for long-term investors is this 40-week moving average, and that is waiting at 2,334 Rand 80. You can use maybe the window or even that upper shadow as a possible stop loss for a short. You can, if you want to wait for confirmation, consider a short below 2,406 Rand and 12 cents. Take very careful note of what it does at the 40-week moving average, because it will give you a clear indication whether they want to change the sentiment for the long term into negative or more positive. And then if I zoom out, obviously, we've mentioned before, this massive double top formation is a concern. And if Naspers starts to consolidate below 1,707 Rand and 73 cents, this double top formation will be on the table and will be confirmed. So at the moment, that window can be your protection level or even higher, and take note of that megaphone formation. A megaphone formation changes into a jaws of death if that lower band waiting at 2,026 Rand 76 changes into a resistance. Terry wanted us to look at Pan Africa. Now, a lot of you had emails about gold stocks, and you can see the volatility and the uncertainty in gold is just uncanny. And we haven't seen that for years. But at the moment, Terry, I'm a little bit concerned about Pan Africa. It has started to consolidate below that 40-week moving average. Will I short it? You'll be a very brave trader if you do. But you can use these resistance levels, R2.61 or even higher, R2.67 as a possible stop loss. But again, the big test will be for that possible double top. And this, depending on whether you look at a line graph or a candle graph, you might even want to extend it even lower, which makes it a little bit worse then. But below R1.86, that double top formation will be confirmed. And let me just draw that in for our viewers. It's when a share bounces, reaches a resistance, retraces again, finds support, bounce again, finds resistance at almost the same level it did the previous time, but again retrace from it. And when that previous support changes into a resistance, that double bottom confirms a warning formation, which means the sell-off to the bottom can continue. So below R1.86, that double top formation will be confirmed. Again, we have started to consolidate below that 40-week moving average, Terry, and that is waiting at R2.19. And that was my first bell that rang for Pan Africa to say, be a little bit careful, that you might even see more profit taking. Some analysts might say, Christelle, the week of the 16th of March, there was massive buying pressure. You can see that in the shadow of the candle. But even the week after that, last week, the 23rd of March week, you can see sellers took profit there, which tells me they could not change that upper band R2.66 into a support, which is a concern. So you can take a sigh of relief, again, above that 40-week moving average. But as long as we consolidate below it, I will be a little bit concerned about Pan Africa.